everybody. Today is Monday, April 6th, 2020, and welcome to my podcast. This is Ann P. of the Fiber, Floss, and Fiction podcast. So welcome. If you are a new viewer, thank you for stopping by to check me out a bit. And if you're a returning viewer, as always, thank you for choosing to spend some time with me today. Everything here is good. We are still kind of in our coronavirus lockdown. Today was the first day I actually left the house I've been outside, I've been going for walks, but I actually drove a vehicle today for a quick run up into town. First time in over 2 weeks. Yeah. My husband's been super good about doing the shopping, and he's just trying to go for one shopping trip a week and all good. So yeah, we're just kind of hunkering down, I guess, getting used to our new normal. It's been kind of nice to have him home, that we have lunch together and things like that. We realized this past weekend when we were sitting around talking, that the couple of trips that we had planned for the next several months, he was going to take off some time and go away to Moab, and that's not going to happen because that was going to be this coming weekend. And we'll see. We have a trip planned for the end of May where we would be gone for a whole week. I don't know if that's happening either. So we'll just see. Everything's kind of cattywampus right now, as I'm sure it is at your end. And I hope that you are all staying well, washing your hands, taking lots of precautions, being sensible, being safe, and that you and your loved ones are all doing the same. I've been trying to check in with my folks who are back on the East Coast at least a couple times a week. And my dad sends me goofy memes and bad puns, so I know he's feeling okay if those are still coming into my inbox every couple of days. So anyway, let's talk about it. Let's kind of jump into it and get started. We're going to tackle knitting first. So I have a bunch of things to show you that I finished up. So I will segue into some more information about the 100-day project after we talk about my finishes. So the first of which is my luminary socks from Curious Handmade. The designer is Helen Stewart, and these are from her Sock Society club. She has 6 sock patterns that she's releasing this year, mostly here in the front of the year, and this is the first one. So I have knit these using an Ocean Wind Knits Blueface Leicester sock yarn. No colorway name that I'm aware of, but pretty kind of bluish green, sort of teal, but not quite. I haven't blocked these yet, but hey, here they are on my sock blockers. These are the size mediums. Helen's sock patterns have 3 sizes in them. So twisted rib cuff. The backs are plain stockinette, flap heel, which is as written. I will just knit the pattern straight through. And then I think you can see there's this really pretty textured pattern. It's not really bobbles. It's not really a noop. It's she has it written as a star pattern, which it does kind of look like. That goes down the front of the sock, as well as this simple lace, kind of viney lace pattern on them, and then a wide toe. So these are done. Love them. I love how they came out. Another really pretty pattern from Helen, and I'm looking forward to having these to wear. I think I'm going to probably keep these. I have one person I'm thinking about maybe as a gift, but I'm leaning towards putting them in my own sock drawer because I love them that much. So those are finished. And as always, I will link to all the patterns in the description box below to take you off to their Ravelry page so you can find them if you would like. The next pattern, which I mentioned I thought I would be finished by the time I talk to you guys this time, is River Edge, which is this hat. The designer is Melissa Shashwari, and she's also under Dandelion Girl on Ravelry. So very simple, basic hat, DK weight. It has a really nice slip stitch pattern on it that is pretty subtle, but I think looks kind of like running water. This is a skein of Cephalopod Travelers DK weight merino wool, which I've had in stash for eons and eons. The colorway is Casco Bay, that's pretty close. A really dark blue forest green hand dye. I went ahead and knit this a little bit more like a slouch than a true beanie. I wanted it to have like a little bit more back piece to it. So I added about an inch beyond what the pattern information said to knit for the body before I started the decreases. And I still have probably half of the skein left for this. This is the size medium in the pattern. So going into my giveaway / charity box, little snurdlets of other fiber. Sorry about that. And so this will be something that goes away to keep someone warm this coming winter. Very easy, straightforward pattern. I put a couple of notes in my finished Ravelry page about how I handled the decreases and working the hat crown decreases in pattern. So if you decide you want to knit it yourself and want to check out what I did, information is there for you. Okay, next up, you all haven't even seen this, but it's a finished thing. This is called the Kione, I think I'm saying that right, hat. It's Greek. The designer is Tori Gerberitz, who is also Lachesis, not sure I'm saying that right, and company. Again, all that information will be down below. The name comes from the Greek goddess of snow. I don't know that it snows that often in Greece, maybe up in the mountains. Dunno. If you're from Greece and have something that you want to tell me about that, please do. I love to know things about places I don't know things about. So this is a worsted weight hat, and the fiber is from the Imperial Stock Ranch. It's from their herd of Columbia sheep, flock of Columbia sheep. The colorway is denim. I have had one skein in my stash for eons and eons. I knit the size large version out of this, and the pattern comes with, sorry, I'm being really distracted by the dog. Could you just lie down, please? We are in like super, super high pollen levels right now, and so the humans in the house and the dog in the house sneeze a lot, and the dog has chronic itches because of it, so she just has trouble being still. Size large in this hat. I thought this was a fairly neutral kind of guy color in this denim-y blue, and I really like the fact that there's all this fun textured Gansey type patterns on it. The pattern comes written for either the ribs, which is what I knit, the 1x1 rib, or you can do it as a folded brim, so it's got 2 layers on the inside. This is just the 1 layer of ribbing. So again, I only used half a skein to knit this, and so I have another half of a skein to do something else with, but really nicely written pattern. Very fun to work because none of it goes too long on. You move along through those different patterns pretty quickly. The crown also is worked kind of in pattern, so the decreases are incorporated in there. You can kind of see right there where it tapers up over that interrupted rib. So yeah, another nice warm woolly thing to go into that donation box. So that makes me very happy. So let's talk quickly about what I cast on this weekend. This is another set of things from Deep Stash. I had 2 skeins of this Malabrigo worsted. The colorway is Velvet Grapes. It's the single ply wool. That's pretty close for color. So I think it's about 440 yards of the yarn. So I cast on for a wheat shawl, scarf, that's the word I'm looking for, wheat scarf. Very simple. It's actually a free pattern and super easy to knit. It's mostly garter stitch. It will need a bit of a block because you can see that the ribbed pattern right here is pulling in compared to the garter stitch, which I'm not shocked by in any way, shape, or form, but it will need a nice wash and block when I'm done with it. So this is also going into the giveaway box, and I have quite a bit done. This is skein 1. So I have joined skein 2 and started on that. I've just been using this as kind of a mindless knitting project in the evenings, and the irony of it all is I love scarves. I think they're great gifts. I love to wear them. I hate to knit them. But this one's moving along fast enough that I'm not just liking it so much that it's making me crazy. I mean, I will get it finished and I will just keep knitting till I'm basically done with that. So if you followed me on my last podcast, you know that I was talking about the 100-day project. Now there are two websites out there. One is 100 Days Project. This is the 100-day, no S, project. They're both completely viable things where you mark off 100 days on your calendar to spend doing something, hopefully creative but not required, and you will have something to show for it at the end. And there's no amount of time that you have to spend doing something, you just have to do it each day. So it could be 5 minutes, it could be an hour, it could be your entire day. I don't have an entire day to devote, but I certainly do have an hour that I can do some knitting. So I had not carefully enough read the information, but the 100-day project actually kicks off April 7th, which is tomorrow, Tuesday. And I'm going to be joining in on that. I will put a link to the website for this particular challenge thing. And you're welcome to go over and join her mailing list. She has bi-weekly-ish kind of prompts. She has some other sort of freebie things. You can either opt for a free version that just gets kind of her newsletter, or you can opt for the paid version that goes to support her as kind of a Patreon thing. And she's got some printables and some other things that you can get from her website if you wish to kind of donate towards it. So the deal with the 100-day project, again, to find something that you would like to work on for 100 days and post with the hashtag the 100-day project on your Instagram account so everybody can kind of see what you're working on. And so I had kind of jumped the gun. I had started my stuff early because I don't know, I thought it was going to start April 1st, and I was even a little bit early for that. It doesn't matter, because the goal for me is to use up stash yarn for projects that are going to go to the Madison Knitters Guild for their charity. They have multiple charities that they donate warm goodies to. So I have earmarked a bunch of stuff from stash. Obviously I have 2 hats finished, and I'm working on a scarf. So I'm focusing on projects that have slightly larger gauge yarn, meaning not lace or fingering, more like worsted or DK. And I'm just gonna knit through the 3 bags that I've pulled, and they're Ziploc bags, so they're, you know, yay big, the 2-gallon kind. See how much I can get through and it's kind of a win-win for me. It will work on whittling down some stash, and it will also mean that I will have a bunch of stuff to donate. If I get through all of that, I have sport weight and I have such an amount of sock yarn, I can always knit plain socks. So in 100 days, which I think takes us to July 21st, that's what I've got going. So I will have daily Instagram updates, and of course I will update you for where I'm going and what I'm achieving with that particular thing when I come back to talk to you guys for my podcast. I know there's a few of you who have decided to join into that. If you haven't, but it sounds intriguing, please let me know if you plan on participating. I'd love to be able to follow you on Instagram and see what you're working on. It doesn't have to be knitting related. It can be anything. It can be exercising for 100 days straight. It can be working on one big project. It can be learning a new language. It can be reading a book. So this is a great time to do it, and I'm trying to look for silver linings in amongst our clouds here, because I know so many folks are staying at home and self-isolating. And I think having something to look forward to every day is a really positive thing. And I also think having a little bit of structure to say, this is the challenge, this is what I've picked, and this is what I'm going to try to do. I think it helps a little bit if you find yourself sitting on the couch flipping through your phone for like the umpteenth time in a given day. And I'm trying very hard to distance myself from some of the news things because it just upsets me and makes me so anxious that then that kind of colors the rest of my waking hours. And I think into my evening, I think I'm probably grinding my teeth quite a bit, as are we all. And so for me, having that level of structure is really, really helpful. So if you would like to join along, everybody and anybody is welcome. So like I said, I would love to hear if you are planning on it, and let me know if you've got an Instagram or Facebook account that I can follow you there. All right, let's move on to books. This is going to be another long one. Only 2 books to talk about this week. The first of which is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. The author is Matt Haddon. This book has been out for a while. You may have already read it. You may already know about it. But in essence, the book is told from the perspective of a teenage boy who is on the autistic spectrum. So everything about the book is colored through his perception of the world, which is to say that it doesn't read like your normal narrative. And the incident that sets this book off is that his neighbor's dog, this big black poodle, he looks out and sees the dog dead in the front yard. And it has a gardening fork through it. And he decides that he's going to detect and figure out what happened to the dog. And he likes dogs. He loves animals. He has a pet rat named Toby. So he goes to a special school. His mother and dad are separated. And his entire life is governed by a set of rules, some of which are imposed on him by the adults in his life to try to kind of keep him safe and keep some order to his life, but also things that he imposes on himself that he can't function without. He's sort of a brilliant mathematician, so he sees everything in terms of numbers and orderliness out in the world. And so the story unfolds, and reading it from the perspective of someone who doesn't have autism, you kind of begin to read between the lines to understand what's happening in his life and what's happened to this dog. And there's all these other sort of adult emotions happening in it, which he is not programmed to deal with. And he's very brave and goes on an adventure, but it is very difficult for him, and he has to kind of resort to some of his coping mechanisms, like figuring out the prime numbers up into the hundreds of thousands, because that helps kind of quiet his mind and calm him down. And I can totally sympathize with some of his things, because some of his things are my things. I don't like my food to touch. This is a big deal for me. I still, like, Thanksgiving dinner drives me crazy because it touches, like, the gravy touches everything, and I don't like that. So, everybody has their own little quirks, and I guess it's the level at which the quirk is affecting how you deal with the world, where, is it something you can kind of put in the back of your mind and continue to function? Is it something that becomes a fixation? And how many of those things do you have, and how does that affect how you have to live your life? So it's an excellent book. It's really, really well written. The author obviously knows somebody who has some form of autism. He got this young man, like, he understood who he was inside and out, and so he's a great character. And the fact that the story is told completely from his perspective is wonderful. It really gives you a feel for how he struggles to get through the day in the world where the majority of other people are wired completely differently from how he is wired. So, excellent book, highly recommended. The second book that I finished this week is called Murder at Half Moon Gate, and the author is Andrea Penrose. So this is book 2 in a historical mystery series. I read the first book October or November of 2019. Really enjoyed it. And this is set kind of just after the Regency period in London. The main character is a single woman. She's a widow who is a satirical artist. So she does cartoons and drawings that all focus on something that's happening in the political scene. She pokes fun at the Prince Regent, and his overweight and overspending. But she's also, when this book begins, working on a series of drawings that focus on the machine and how that's affecting society. Since this was a time when there was a lot of transition from a more agricultural and rural setting to the cities and manufacturing, with the mill towns and steam and locomotion, she's doing some political discussion about how that is affecting the English populace. The second character in this book is a peer of the realm, Lord Rexford, and he is interested in science. He's a man of science, so he has his chemistry experiments, and he has a whole set of things that he's interested in from a scientific perspective, and he's very sort of emotionally shut down. The two of them paired up in the first book to solve a murder mystery, and a mystery has come across Lord Rexford's path again, and so he enlists the help of Charlotte Sloane, the widow, to help solve this. And really nicely done. It's a great plot. It's very interesting. It's focuses around the patent holding for a new type of steam power, which is a 4-cylinder engine. So we know that that's come to fruition, right? Because 4-cylinder engines power a great many things in our contemporary world. So it's kind of fun to see it in its infancy and to see it within the perspective of everything else that's going on in Great Britain at the time. And there's really good rapport between Charlotte and Rexford. So I really enjoyed this one. She's got one more that just came out this past year, which I have not read. So book 3 in this series. So I will probably pick that up and read that at some point as well, because they're fun escapist literature. Okay, I think that's it for books. I have 2 other books that I'm reading right now. I'm halfway through one audiobook and I'm halfway through one print book, so I'll talk about those next time I come back to talk to you all. I think that's it then for reading. Let's go on and we'll talk cross stitch. Okay, so I have a whole bunch of things to share with you guys. Let's see where I should start. Let's start with the FFOs. So I had my sewing machine out this weekend. I wanted to make some non-medical grade masks if we needed to go out and about, especially for my husband since he's been doing the shopping. So got my machine out, made a few of those. And then since I had it out, I decided I would go ahead and finish 3 things that I had the stitching done on, including the finished object I forgot to show y'all last week, and went ahead and got everything like ready to be displayed. So here is the first one. This is Prairie Schoolers Autumn Leaves. It is stitched on a 36 count winter moon linen from Witchelt. I converted all of the colors to color and cotton hand-dyed threads, which I love. It changes the feel of this completely. I love, like, this is the house that's brick is all one color, but it's really cool because it's hand-dyed, so it looks modeled. And I love how it came out for the leaves. I think there's 1 or 2 gentle arts in there. Like, I think this is their pomegranate. And, oh, and I think the black is their raven wing, something like that. Backed it with this kind of primitive gingham. It's technically a really dark green, but it kind of looks like black next to the khaki to me. But I thought it worked really nicely with the fall themes. So yeah, I'm totally stitching out of season at this point. So this was stitched 2/2 on the 36 count, which I think also accounts for some of the color vibrancy. So that is ready for when autumn comes back around. Next, I finished my Welcome Winter from the Drawn Thread. That's their pattern. 32 count Smoky Pearl, I think is what this is. Also a Witchelt linen. I used this fun and very sparkly fabric for the backing. And I used mostly color and cotton for this as well. Again, I think the little bird is like raven wing or whatever it is. It's the gas thread, but everything else is Angela's colors. The red and the green were from her Christmas box last year. The brown is one of my all-time favorites called Quarter Horse, which I unfortunately don't think she dyes anymore. And the blue is called Maritime. The white is Wild Oats. And yeah, I added the jingle bell instead of a button. That was the other change up that I did for that. So love how this came out. I love the variegation in those pine needles. I think that looks fantastic. So this is also ready for next year. This one's kind of, sort of, almost seasonal, but not quite. This is the July Wordplay from Brenda Gervais. I stitched this up on 2/2 on an 18 count Gloriosa. And mostly color and cotton threads on this one as well. So this one came out fairly large because of the background, or the fabric, and it's actually 20 count, not 18 count. Excuse me again. Lizzie, lie down. And I chose to use this kind of summery gingham. I thought that looked kind of like a summer picnic fabric, like picnic tablecloth kind of thing. And picks up the red in that little crab, I thought, pretty well. So this will go out then for July. So those are all completely D's for done. Okay, then I had just a couple of other projects that I worked on in my stitching. I have been focused on working on Winter Fairy for the Aries B-Day Sal that Running Stitch, Elizabeth over at Running Stitch, and Stephanie at Miss Oh So Crafty have been hosting for their birthdays in April. So I worked on this at the end of March and into April. This is what it will look like when it is finished. And I got to a really good stopping place on this, which I'm very happy about. This is a 28 count even weave from Color and Cotton. It was one of her Fabric of the Month pieces. No colorway name, but it was from July of 2017. So I have finished, except for the beads, all the way down to there, kind of right there where that blue of her sash ends, which is the top 2 pages. Mm-hmm. So I now have the bottom half to do, which will be all of the big skirt. I did even get the back stitching done. I love how that ribbon came out. I think it looks gorgeous. So there she is. And I will be working on this again come June, since I'm doing an even month stitch along with Leah over at Aviatrix Stitcher. And that will be the next even month in the order of things. So that is one of my plan to get finished this year projects. Need to kick it into gear because that skirt is massive. But I'm halfway through, so I'm feeling cautiously confident. Next up, a stitching shelf. I am working on this. It's the large format. So the pages have a few less stitches than regular size pages, but there's more of them. Ooh, sorry. So I had finished this page last month, and I have started working on this page, which is page 9. My goal is to put 1,000 stitches in it, and I am almost there. I have like 150 stitches left to go in page 9. And then that's all it will get this month because I got that full page finished. I cannot quite get all of this. There we go. So there is the whole thing. I still have a little ways to go. So I've got page 9, 10, 11, and then a partial for page 12 over here. And then that top row will be done. Love it. Love how it's turning out. I think it looks great. This is not the max color. It is not the super size. It's just regular. But yeah, really enjoying working on that. So next up this month, for the rest of April, and I mean, we have most of the month left. It's only the 6th. I have 2 other full coverage projects I'm going to focus on. I'm going to look at Once Upon a Fairy Tale next. That is supersized and max colored. 1,000 stitches on that. I've got Which Way to work on at the end of the month, and I've also got Long Dug Samplers, The Pilgrim, to work on for 1,000 stitches between now and the end of the month. So hopefully that will get all of that checked off for challenges from semi-sane stitchers. The last thing I was going to mention is that I had some purchases from Heaven and Earth Designs. They unfortunately have decided to cancel HadeCon this year. It wasn't until the end of October, but they just felt like they weren't going to be able to say for sure if they could get like their goodie bags filled, and they knew people were concerned about traveling, and who knows how long all this is going to last. So they refunded the early bird cost, which I had paid to sign up to go. So while I did not buy an exactly equal number of patterns, they did have a 50% off sale this past week, and so I gave them some of that money back in exchange for more full coverage patterns, which I will now live to be 572 before I get through all of them. But hey, I am supporting small businesses, so I'm okay with it. First up, Royal Processional. I will try to find the link. I found actually like a YouTube video of it. Kim at Spartan Stitcher said she couldn't get it to open, but I was able to find it online, and actually it walked you through all the detail in here, which is what I love about this, with all of the little fairies and this odd little dude. There's a guy in here somewhere with wearing a squirrel hat that's readily availably noticed on the video, but not so much in here. So anyway, Royal Procession. Let me get these in a little bit better order. I also picked up Mini Scent of Magic, which I really like, with all of the herbs. And it's not super big. It's actually relatively reasonable, you know, when I start this among the other bazillion of them. Laura Prindle's Spirit Warrior, the Max Colors. I have looked at this several times, but yeah, the sale got me. It kind of looks like our mountain range here in the back. It certainly fits us here for where we live. Then I want to group all of the one artist together. Molly Harrison's Annie's Fox. I've had this in my wish list for a very long time. I love foxes. And it's named after me, so I mean, I kind of had to get it. If I do it, I'm going to crop it. I don't think I need that extra ground there, and I may scooch it in a little bit there. I mean, I like the full moon and the graveyard. That part I'm totally down with. Just there's a lot of neutral grays there that I'm not sure I want to stitch. Then I got 3 pieces from Stephanie Law. I love her artwork. And again, I've had these in my wish list for a while. The first is Standing Stones. Also not massive, so. And I love that because it's very Claire looking. Following the Stars, which I like very much, with the ravens and the moon and as a boat. And I've been watching a lot of her videos where she talks about how she gets this effect when she actually does the artwork, which is really cool. So that was kind of why I picked that one up. And then Secret Places 2, which I just love this young lady sitting here with her cat in that gorgeous dress. I think if I do it, I would crop it there though, because that's a lot of gray and only one little interesting bird down there. You could almost do that bird as a standalone, like as a mini. That would be really pretty. This is not huge either. So, you know, someday, when I don't work and have oodles of time to devote to hobbies, and I'm gonna live to be triple my life expectancy, or more than that, probably. Yes, 10 times my life expectancy. Okay, that is it for me today, guys. It wasn't too bad. I kept it under 45 minutes, so. Oh, I do have one more thing to show you. I almost forgot. I posted this on Instagram. If you follow me there, you'll have seen it. This is this sweet little wool applique kit that I have been working on from Shabby Fabrics. They have a whole series that are seasonal. This is the June one. It makes a mug rug. It also has some embroidery along the outer edge, and I need to embroider the little bee antennae. I have some pearl cotton to do that with. So I'm almost done with whip stitching down all of the pieces. This flower is completely done. I need to do this edge of the beehive. I need to do this opening, and I need to finish the top curve of that stem, and then this top piece is not quite attached. This flower is done, and the bee is done. So I've just picked this up as something fun to do. I'm actually thinking about maybe trying to finish it for my mom's birthday in June and send to her with some tea and things. She's a big tea drinker, and I thought that would be kind of cute. And I know it would be safe, meaning it's only been in my house and none of us are sick. So if I sent it to her, I know it hasn't been anywhere or in anybody's house that maybe is not well. So there's a backing of more of this black wool felt. They have a whole bunch of different ones for the months. They have some easier and some harder. These are kind of middle of the range because some of the pieces are smaller. But you cut them out, you attach them with the fusible backing so they kind of stay in place, and then you just whip stitch around them. I mean, they're not technically very difficult in terms of the stitching. It's mostly just dealing with all the little bits and pieces to get them placed right. But I've been enjoying doing that. I just pick it up and do like one thread's worth just to work on when I have a spare minute. So it's worked up pretty quick, and it's just a nice change to do something different every so often. So that really is it. Still under 45 minutes, so all is good. I will be back in another 10 days-ish, I think. I'm trying to keep off less than 2 weeks so that I can hopefully have these not be as long, although this one's plenty long for those of you who like things longer than the 15-minuters. Yeah, so I think that will cover me for everything. I will be back to talk to you guys about my usual hat trick of 3 interesting concept talks on knitting and books and cross stitch. Thank you for hanging in there with me and spending some time with me today. Again, I hope you and your family are all doing well and staying well. Be smart, be safe, and take care of yourselves. I will talk to y'all soon. Bye.